Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's your host, TJ, and we are discussing how to spot a dangerous person, which is the Sandra L. Brown book. And we are now at the actually second type of dangerous person. This one is called the Parental Seeker, which was referenced in the previous, which was the emotional clinger. Well, this situation here pretty much sums up the cluster B mentality, but her beginning line is, a distinguishing feature about this category of dangerous person is that you quickly learn that his or her childlikeness is really childishness. And how attractive can that be after a while? She calls this one, which we'll have to use the male version, but she calls him Tommy Teenager. And she asks you, how could a benign seeming mama's boy break anyone's heart? What in the world could make this perpetual little boy pathological? Like his cousin the clinger we just mentioned, he's not necessarily violent, addicted, or predatory. He isn't scouting for other women or hiding his life behind closed doors. His only sin is that he's around, constantly, like a toddler around your knees. Yes, he's available, always available, way too available. And I've known a few of these. Like permanent clingers, the parental seekers are natural selections for those of us who have dated some of the more frightening types of dangerous persons. Selecting a more passive one seems like a safer choice in our minds. The loyalty of the parental seeker seems refreshing after dating a few people who display way too much, in this case, testosterone. This type of dangerous person is best thought of in terms of age brackets. Many of these people failed to develop adult personality structures. Instead, they were stunted in their early development, ends up producing a full-blown personality disorder. Those of us who date the parental seekers immediately want to know why the person is the way it is. Our hearts bleed over the sad story of this person's stunted growth. We wonder how their love, our love, might fix his or her yearnings for a mama. But remember, pathological people are not fixable, even those who need a mother or a father. According to personality development theory, seekers look for partners who will be mother replacements because they were wounded in childhood by their own mothers or the lack thereof. And this can apply even to gay men whose personalities failed to develop adequately in childhood. They may not seek women to date, but they seek motherly figures as close friends. The parental seeker's stunted early development could have been caused by any number of factors, including childhood abuse, parents who were non-supportive, non-nurturing, non-interactive, addicted parents, or a chronic childhood illness, to name a few. The parental seekers are looking for the eternally absent parent. Maybe it was the father who was never around when they were growing up, or the mother who was never emotionally present for them. Many seekers have complicated abandonment and separation issues with their mothers. But the clue is that they are always seeking an ever-elusive parent figure. This means that even when someone else is trying to parent them, for example, a woman whom they are dating, the parent of their youth is forever absent. The hole in their soul is shaped like an absent parent. More importantly, from your perspective, that hole can never be filled by something with your shape. Some of the parental seekers' stunted and unfulfilled emotional growth results in their acting like 10-year-olds, while others resemble mouthy, rebellious 14 to 16-year-olds. To spot these types of pathological people, look for the behavior of a 10 to 16-year-old kid. This allows you to see childish behavior for what it is and provides you with a reality check when you hear their sad story. Parental seekers' egos are small, as is befitting the emotional age bracket that they fall into. They need constant reassurance about their choices, decisions, and actions. Many could fit the diagnosis of a dependent personality disorder. Although their symptoms are similar to those of their cousins, the permanent flinger, their motives, the ways in which they were wounded, and the type of person they seek are somewhat different. Still, the end results are the same for you, the target. In much the same way as you would encourage a 14-year-old boy to ask a girl to the dance, you will leave your life boosting the parental seeker's sagging self-esteem and compensating for his or her low level of functioning. It takes him or her forever to make a decision, and even then, he or she can only do so after lots of assistance in weighing the pros and the cons. Whether or not he or she stays with the decision is another issue. Because of the deficient decision-making skills, there isn't much action in the person's life. It's spent in suspense, thinking, weighing options, choosing but doing very little. Because the parental seeker is still trying to get his little boy or little girl, her little girl needs met, he or she wants to be waited on hand and foot. The mama maid role adopted by some women who get involved with him fits nicely with his attempts to get some nurturing. He's trying to fill the hole in his soul that was left by neglect from early in life. When you take care of him or her, he says or she says she feels good or special. In truth, however, your stepping into the role of the waitress does not repair the damage from the person's childhood. This parental seeker does not participate in many adult chores. You'll find them lacking in interest, ability, or willingness to help with routine adult tasks. Painting the house is probably out, along with paying the bills, driving the kids to school, or anything else a grown person would be expected to do. But it'll be Johnny on the spot when it comes to play sports with the kids, watch cartoons, or imitate pro wrestling in your living room. Its biggest contribution to family life will be playing with the children. Now she talks about somebody named Shayla. Shayla, who is married to a seeker, explains it this way. Dan was emotionally 13 years old. I also have a teenage son, and the two of them hung out together and played basketball. It's good for a dad to hang out with his son, but this wasn't parental guidance we're talking about here. At the end of the day, I had to call them both to dinner, tell them both to wash their hands, tell them both not to bring the basketball to the table, ask them both if they'd taken their vitamins, and ask if they'd gone to their jobs that day. Eventually, I had to take Dan's paycheck each week because of his overspending on sporting equipment and music, just like I had to make sure my son was depositing his money each week and not spending it on videos. There was no difference between Dan and my son, except I was having sex with one of them. Task delegation is another battleground. Much like a 13-year-old, this parental seeker doesn't initiate anything on his or her own. So you have to assign a task, and then it's a power struggle. Although he or she likes for you to direct him or her to do the things he or she cannot manage to do for him or herself, they still have control issues surrounding inability to initiate anything. Job hunts, chores, hobbies, and adult friendships do not happen for the perpetual seeker without prodding and threatening and guidance from you. Consequently, this person has few outside interests, so it's always around you. Like a small child with a death grip on your knees, needs constant reassurance that all will be well before he or she responds to the prodding and the threats. Like an 11-year-old, the parental seeker will lie in bed and want special nursing care for a sore throat. And during episodes of other minor illness, you can expect the pain tolerance will be low and pampering needs will be high. If it's not waited on, sick or not, it'll pout. Shayla says both my son and my husband had the flu, and it was a competition between them to see how many times I would help each of them. They would tally points and high-five each other if they got the medication given to them in bed. It isn't long until the seeker's partner is limp from carrying the load of another person's life on her or his shoulders. But he or she is full of reminders for you about all the other people they dated who previously failed them. The burden of proof that the others in his or her life can redeem themselves lies solely on you. If you are a good codependent and hell-bent on loving this person into wellness, this dynamic will hold you hostage in the relationship. Well, into burnout. Now, who do these people seek? Parental seekers are the number one hottie selection for some other people. Those with personality structures that are overly nurturing choose these types of people to date. These aren't people who merely like to pamper others a little bit. They are people who find meaning for their existence in the rescuing and raising of emotionally dependent partners. It's a symbiotic relationship based on the other person needing a mom and the other person needing a child. Somewhere along the way, this person's childhood needs and the woman's parenting needs got twisted. And instead of each of them finding a therapist, they found a relationship with each other. Women with histories of childhood abuse are likely candidates for these types of men. A woman who is abused may attach herself to a mama's boy so she can replicate the type of nurturing she needed and failed to get in childhood by giving it to a man in adulthood. However, when a woman tries to get her own needs met through the excessive nurturing of a partner, it usually fails to pay off for her. Instead, she ends up saddled with one more person who does not nurture or value her. Some women or men confuse their professions with their private lives. Those working in caregiving fields, such as nurses or other medical workers, social workers, clergymen, and teachers, are at risk for dating and marrying potential seekers. Permanent clingers, addicts, mentally ill men or women, or people who are some combination of these. Likewise, those who regularly volunteer at church or as long-term caregivers for family members and friends may fail to be on guard against those who feel so natural to them. The saying, charity begins at home, finds new meaning with these people who literally think this means marrying the type of person that you serve in a profession or in your volunteer work. On the contrary, charity work needs to remain at the mission, at the church, at the hospital, or at the social service building. It should not enter your dating and marrying life. So people who want more children often subconsciously look for seekers to fill some of that need. Here she says, women who want more children often subconsciously look for seekers to fill some of that need. This does not mean that women who want children or who love to care for the elderly or the infirm are pathological nurturers, and that there is something wrong with them. But there are personality types that will be drawn to this type of pathologically disordered person. This is because the person's needs for nurturing, guidance, direction, and overall assistance fall right in line with the pattern of giving, giving, and giving. Oddly enough, some strong-willed and controlling people also like parental seekers. Those who are high-powered executives are not immune to selecting seekers. These dangerous people enjoy the structure and control such people bring to the relationship, and they will take the structure and control any way they can get it, in the form of either a gentle, nurturing mother figure or the decisive taskmistress. Anyone who will organize and steer this person's life is a target for the parental seeker. Now, parental seekers' fear of abandonment causes them to move quickly from relationship to relationship, urgently seeking another source of care when one ends. They have difficulty being alone and want or need people around them constantly in their attempts to ward off feelings of loneliness and abandonment. Those who are indiscriminating about how many partners a man or a woman has had are very attractive to this seeker. So those who date parental seekers have to go above and beyond the call of duty for them. A seeker creates a scenario in which the other person will willingly go to great lengths to prove that it will not be like the mother who left him, so unloved and wounded. And these seekers manipulate their sad stories and their partner's soft heart to set up a double bind that leaves the woman or man in a no-win situation. In order to prove yourself and for this other person to feel loved, you must show Herculean effort in sustaining ongoing attention and adoration, or taking care of these needs. There is no allowance for us being tired or taking care of our own needs. Proving our love to this wounded person 24 hours a day is a job that will never end. Next, she says, why are they successful? Well, parental seekers are often playful and childlike. They come in under our radars because they're like big kids. There's nothing overtly threatening about them. Indeed, there is something sweet about a parental seeker's harmless disorganization that reminds you of your brother. You see this person's sensitive side as he or she talks about his dysfunctional family life, needs a woman or man to spruce up his house, his wardrobe, her life. Just a big dorky person, sort of like all your brother's friends, like the kid next door you remember from childhood. Seekers like partners who call them my baby or just a big kid at heart. They won't balk at any of your references to their juvenile demeanor and behavior. They look for those who take the lead, who seem organized, and who have children. Single or divorced women with a big caretaking streak are especially drawn to these types of people if they're men. People with unresolved mother issues might not be on guard against this type of dangerous person. Both of them will spend time lamenting their inadequate mothers. Before long, however, all of the other persons with the disorder's issues will begin to reveal themselves. The seeker will place responsibility for feeling loved on the partner. It's your job now to somehow overcome the years of abuse, loneliness, and unmet needs for mothering. Fulfilling these needs is impossible, but you don't know it yet. You must continuously perform extraordinary feats of devotion to prove that you're the one who will love this person, while unlike the women or men who have failed him before, didn't. This is emotional hostage-taking at its highest form. But the parental seeker is a bottomless pit of pathological need. It's a cracked vessel that cannot hold what's poured in. All the love given merely runs out of the fractures in the wounded psyche. This person wears out the relationship by needing so much love it just can never be enough. Someone who loves this type of person ends up feeling inadequate in the attempts at loving him or her. We feel exhausted from having given more than anyone else in our whole lives, and according to this other person, we still failed. Parental seekers take low responsibility for their own emotional or physical needs and place high responsibility on their partners to meet those needs. It's a full-time job with no benefits for the person who's involved with the seeker. And yes, parental seekers are very hard to leave. For somebody with a big heart, children of your own, or your own mother issues, leaving this person feels like nothing less than abandoning a child. We worry and wonder, how in the world will this person ever get by on his or her own? As is the case with the cousin, the clinger, you must remember that dependency is not love. Your defense strategy. Your defense approach with this parental seeker has to begin with a good examination of yourself. What is it in you that would find a pathological man, woman, child a suitable partner for dating or marrying? What is it in his or her dependency and vulnerability that you find appealing, attractive, or sexy? Asking yourself these questions may jar you into examining your own motives. On the surface, the dynamic between a person and a parental seeker may appear to be that of one person in control of a childlike other. But look again. The two are engaged in a standoff in which the woman or man controls the other via the mothering, and the other person controls you via underfunctioning. You two are held in a position by mutual tension that comes from each one controlling the other, one overtly and the other covertly. Neither position represents anything that would be seen in a healthy relationship. Seekers find their identity in being cared for. It is their attempt to deal with a relentless fear of a lack of parental figure in their lives. They attempt to get attention by requiring guidance from you. Those of us who confuse rescuing for intimacy find these parental seekers irresistible. Taking care of this seemingly helpless individual gives us a sense of empowerment. Someone who comes across as a victim or as childlike should therefore be a red flag to you. This person has plenty of sad stories to go along with the need for mothering, and none of them are your responsibility to heal. Those who lack a track record of age-appropriate responsibilities in a relationship, a job, or adult life are probably highly regressed seekers who also lack the capacity to change and grow. Seekers cannot regulate their own motivational drives. They are disorganized inside, and the result is a disorganized exterior life. Now, you are wise to ask the kind of questions that might reveal someone's level of functioning in life, in work, and in relationships. You might discover the answer to some of these issues from others. Don't discount what other people may tell you about a person you're considering dating. Even if it comes from the old girlfriend or boyfriend. Seekers hop from one relationship to another to find caregivers. You might want to find out more about the previous relationships. How long did this person go between relationships? How many have there been? Listen to the reasons, too, that the person gives for why they ended. I know this one. Read between the lines for messages that may indicate the partners were actually overwhelmed by this person's childlike neediness or needing to break from micromanaging his or her life. This person, of course, will most likely perceive this as abandonment. Determining how well this person functions is key. Seekers are at increased risk for depression, anxiety, and adjustment disorders. They may have symptoms of borderline personality disorder, which is a pathological condition. Chronic illness as a child or a separation anxiety order can predispose a seeker to a diagnosis of dependent personality disorder, which is another permanent condition. Chronic underachievement may be another sign. These people are not stupid. They just function far below their potential. When IQ, motivation, and potential fail to match up, pay attention. Because the parental seeker's low motivation, women or men will find themselves continually trying to pep talk these people into doing something, anything with their lives. Seekers grew up without any discipline. Their parents probably didn't enforce any kind of boundaries or limits. Their homes were lax, not because of a laid-back parent, but because of an uninvolved parent. All of this translates into a lack of discipline in their adult lives. A seeker perpetually lacks a sense of security about his or her ability to make everyday decisions because he or she received no guidance as a child, therefore has no idea about what to do. Very few social skills, low work motivation, and almost non-existent adult relationship abilities, and very few parenting skills. Lastly, most normal people resist being fixed. By contrast, the parental seekers are the original fixer-uppers. They don't mind a person coming in and trying to fix them or change them. They seem to encourage it and act grateful for it, even though nothing really ever changes. Most people shut down when you try to fix them, but the seeker acts like he or she will take all the help it can get, and can't see itself as an adult, a parent, or a provider because it has no models for these roles. So, it needs the direction that an adult will give. If this person isn't shutting down in the face of someone's attempts to change or fix him or her, a red flag should be flying high. Fixing someone is a sign of codependency. It is not a sign of emotional maturity for you or for the seeker.
I know. When I first met you, I swore that you were the only one that I would let near my private part. And I know you hadn't touched him yet, and I'd become pregnant. Well, my plan was to pin that on you, but because you were so polite and wouldn't even go that far, now I am forced to have to chase another guy for alimony. Thanks a lot. But I meant what I said when I told you I loved you. I hope you understand.